Hi, I'm Shelby Long. Welcome to the second episode of the Expertise Podcast. I'm very excited today because I get to talk to my friend Keith. But just to give you a little bit of background about this podcast and the whole purpose of this project is to be able to provide entrepreneurs and people thinking about business about ways to transform their expertise into an additional income stream or just transition in business altogether. That's what I do in my business coaching is I help people discover that path and I help them make the roads to be able to create a business out of their expertise. And when I was putting this idea together and putting this project together in the coaching program that I have, it was really exciting because I was developing my ideas around the same time that my friend Keith was also developing his ideas for his own business. And I think that Keith is an excellent person to have as a second guest on this podcast because his business is all about his expertise. It's about his passion. It's about what he loves to do. I have had the opportunity to listen to Keith talk about cars and to talk about his experience and to talk about his passion for a long time. And it's been really fun to develop our businesses alongside of each other. So I'll let Keith introduce himself, but that's the whole idea of this podcast is to how can you take an idea of yours, a level of expertise that you have, and create an additional income stream about it. So I'll introduce my friend Keith. And Keith Bishop is with Clarity Automotive Group. And I'll just have him introduce himself and talk about his business. And then we'll get into the questions about how he's connecting to his brand. So Keith, introduce yourself and talk about your business, please.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shelby, for doing this and for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a little more about who I am, what I do, why I do it, and all of those things. So like you said, it's been really cool because we've been sort of starting our businesses and developing our businesses in a similar time frame. So it's been cool to see that as well. So I guess to start with what Clarity Automotive Group is and what I actually do, the tagline that I use most often is car buying advocate. So I guess if you thought about someone like a real estate agent when you're buying or selling property, I operate kind of in a similar fashion, similar role to that. Buying a car, especially a new car, can be a very time-consuming process. It can be very frustrating for a lot of people for a number of reasons. And so I know that I have the background and the experience to help people through that process and just to make it a lot more streamlined and just a lot better experience overall.
So talk a little bit more about that. What draws you to cars and what made you, we'll talk about your entrepreneurship journey throughout this podcast, but I just want to know a little bit more about what draws you to cars and why you see yourself in this position to help people discover the car that best fits them.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say I'm a car guy pretty much from childhood. I grew up around cars with my dad and his business and things he was doing. He's a hot rodder from way back, the 50s and 60s and 70s. He was the guy, building race cars and building engines, and he had his own shop that he ran for several years. So I got to see not only the, falling in love with the cars in general, but then also seeing the business side as well. And that just really inspired me to keep going along those lines. But really where the passion came from was just, being involved in cars from a very young age and just that being a part of my life is really where that all began.
And I've heard you talk about cars many times. I don't really understand a whole lot about cars, so I don't really have the passion for it. So I'm definitely a person that would utilize your own expertise to be able to help direct me toward the car that's best for me. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you go through with your clients to be able to help match them with the car that they might desire or not even know that they might desire in their life. So.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to start. What do you expect, or what would someone expect by working with me? What would I do for them? And if someone really doesn't know what they're looking for in a car, I mean, there's so many options out there right now. You can find whatever you want. It's probably out there, but it can also be a very daunting task to work through all those options and see what might work. So that's where I begin, is really just a conversation to understand, okay, what truly are your wants and needs? Obviously, what kind of a budget are you working within? That's huge. And then from there, I can just really help them narrow down, okay, I would take a look at this vehicle over this vehicle or this vehicle, and go and look at them closer, take them for a test drive, see what you think, and really just start there to make sure that they find the car, the vehicle. Okay, this is the one, this is what I like, this is what's going to work for me.
One thing that I've always respected about you, as we've talked about this growth of business, is that a really important part of this business for you is to be unbiased and to be not connected to another car industry. Because, can you just talk about that a little bit and why that's so important for you to have that independent advocate part of your brand?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that's a huge value of what I provide, is the fact that everything I do is based on a flat fee. It's all determined up front. You know what it's going to cost for my service. And exactly, I am not connected to any dealership. I'm not connected to the auctions. Any other entity is I'm not connected with at all. So when you have me working for you, I represent you. So it would be like hiring a lawyer, for example. There's no other interest on my part. So I'm free then to help you find what you're looking for without any other kind of influences. In other words, if you need to buy a $15,000 car, I'm not going to try to push you into a $30,000 car. There's no incentive for me to do that. Ultimately, the decision is yours. I help you determine what the best options are, what I think you should be looking at. But ultimately, you're going to decide, and you're not going to be bound by any one given dealership, any one given salesperson. You've got that flexibility then to make your own decision.
So how is buying a car with you or talking to you about the process of finding a car, how is that different than me going to a car lot?
So the thing with a car lot, and there's car salesmen in general, I think there's some bad reputation out there for the salespeople overall. I don't ever, speak poorly about car salesmen in general. I think they've got a very tough job. Actually, I really do. And while there may be some out there that, aren't necessarily doing the best job for their clients, there's a lot of very good salespeople out there and a lot of good places to work with. So I'm certainly not going to say anything bad about that, but they are limited on what they can offer.
Sure.
Especially if you're looking for a new car. Depending on which lot you end up on, that salesperson can only sell you what they have to sell. So I don't have that limitation. My inventory, if you will, is unlimited. I don't have a car lot full of vehicles that I'm trying to move in order to make money doing so. So I'm open to exploring any avenue we need to, whether we can find it locally, which I try to do, or if we need to look elsewhere to find it.
I think that's one of the things that puts me at ease to use you to help me find a car is that you're not going to try to upsell me into something else, and that you have options that you can look at. I think that's a really important part of your brand, and I've had a huge respect for that since we have been taught on this entrepreneurship journey together. I think that's a really important piece of your brand. Because
Definitely.
it's pretty easy to be led down a path that you don't know you're going down if you don't know a lot about what you're purchasing. So
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, because it's very easy to get down a path or to get sucked into the rabbit hole, or however you want to put it, because it can be a daunting process, and it's something that you don't do all the time. You may end up on a car lot working with a salesperson, and they sell you a car, and that's great because that's what they're to do, and you found a car and it's fine. And then you wake up the next morning and you start wondering. You might have that buyer's remorse a little bit, going, oh geez, did I actually buy the right vehicle? Did I pay too much? Did I this, did I that? Well, it's just because you ended up making a decision without all the information. So what I like to do is really just help kind of slow it down, and we just take it one step at a time. We make sure we're looking at the right vehicle, what you're looking for. We make sure you're taking the time to properly evaluate it. Do a test drive without a bunch of pressure from someone just trying to make a sale that day. And then you can decide for sure if we want to move forward on that or not.
So before I ask about the process, I'm just going to ask one more thing about your brand, because I think that integrity and that option, and I see some education in there that's a key part of it. Your expertise is what can bring me to the right match for a vehicle that is in my interest and my family's interest and whatever that is. So can you talk a little bit more about your brand and what the key values and mission is behind your business before we get into the process?
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, that is the mission and the vision, is to provide that completely unbiased, very smooth process for people when they're buying a car. So my mission, if you will, is to just do everything I can to support my client, to help them through the process, and just to make sure that they're having a positive experience. I want them to be looking at this going, wow, I'm buying a new car, this is great, I'm super excited about it, without any of those drawbacks of, man, it was a hassle because I had to spend so many hours either trying to find a car, or spent so many hours at the dealership, being led around looking at different things and trying to do that all at once. My goal, again, is to just really represent my clients' interests and help them make sure they have the most positive experience possible.
Sure. It's so similar to a real estate agent, right? Mm-hmm. And the real estate agent helps discover the values and what's needed by the family and helps put them in the right home. And there's lots of real estate agents out there, but there's not a lot of people that do what you do, which I think is something that there's an education piece to kind of teach people about, that there is somebody that can help them in one of the larger purchases that they'll make in their lives. So I think that's a really interesting way to think about it, is that you almost serve as an agent for cars. Is that right? Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can easily draw parallels between what I do and what a real estate agent would do. And I think that's very important to think about, because especially if we're talking about new cars, and I can help with the purchase of used vehicles as well, and there's other services I offer, but let's just talk about new cars. The average new vehicle purchase price right now is well into the $35,000 to $37,000 range, and that's a lot of money. And a better way to look at it might just be, hey, you're going to be paying $400 a month for the next 6 years. That might be your financial commitment. Not everyone writes a check for $35,000 to get their new car. But you look at what the financial commitment is, that is a significant purchase. That's a huge purchase.
Absolutely.
And the nice thing about modern vehicles is they do last a long time. So this purchase, if you buy the right vehicle, you buy a good vehicle, it's going to last you a really long time. And that's great. But it still means that it's a significant purchase decision, and probably not one that should be gone into lightly. So I'm here to provide that representation and to help kind of provide that guidance to make sure that people are just making good purchase decisions that are going to be, best for them.
Sure. I think that's such an important part of your brand, and also just an important part of just the way that you operate in business. And I think it's very respectable, and I think it's something that we don't really think that we need, but then when we go out to make that purchase, then we're like, oh, maybe I need somebody that kind of knows this world. And for me, I am excited to use your services when the opportunity to purchase a car rises, because it's definitely something that I could see being helpful on the time aspect, and then also helpful on the aspect where I just don't know everything about cars. I know about the cars that I drive, but that's about it. So, right. And I don't even know, even then I don't really know much about them. So right. Having an expert in your corner is something I think that is key for your business.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think if there's one message I would like to give to people is first off that the service even exists. I mean, that's a challenge, is letting people know that option is even out there. Second, that, even though you're paying, for a professional service, you're paying my fee, in the end, I may actually be able to save you money, or at least make sure that you're getting the absolute best value in that. Because it's very easy to spend too much money buying a car. Whether you getting your existing vehicle, undervalued, as a trade-in, things like that. Or maybe you're just not taking advantage of all the incentives that are out there. Maybe you just don't know about it. So I can potentially, if we do the full service deal, if you will, where I'm helping through the entire stage, every phase of the process, down to the negotiation, final purchase price, all that, typically I can show cost savings even with my fee factored in. So you're going to pay me, for the service, but ultimately you end up money ahead. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And I can't guarantee that that's always going to happen, because there's a lot of variables, there's a lot of things can happen, but my goal, I mean, that's kind of the icing on the cake, right? You pay for a service, you get all the benefits, you get all the value, and then in the end, did you actually save money on top? I mean, that right there, that's the holy grail. That's really what I like to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we all want. It's all about time, and it's all about money. And if you can save time and money, then definitely should do that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the process. So if I wanted to have you find a car for me, can you walk me through the process? I mean, I know you, so I see you frequently. Our daughters are best friends, so it's fun to always hang out and hear about business. But if I wanted to seek your services, how could I find you, and talk to me about the process that we'll go through? Sure.
Well, I mean, you can find me online. Under the business name is obviously the easiest way, Clarity Automotive Group. It'll come up, as a Google search and everything else. I've got a Facebook page. I'm on LinkedIn. I've tried to be on every social media platform I can, just to make myself available that way. But you go to my website, there's a way to contact me for more information. A lot of places you'll look, I have my phone number listed, things like that. You can just give me a call, and that's really where the process starts, is we just decide if your situation is good for me to help you with, if we're going to be a good fit, and what I offer is going to be good for you. But from there, it's just a conversation. It's just understanding where you're at in the purchase process. If you're looking to buy something now, again, what your budget is, what kind of vehicle you're looking for, things like that. And then from there, we can move on. And pretty much it's going to be one of two things. If all you're looking for is for me to help you find a vehicle, I'm more than happy to do that. And then from there, you take the ball and run with it and finish out the deal. If you'd like me to help with the whole rest of the process, where I'm helping you find the vehicle, I'm helping to arrange for the test drive, I'm giving you input every step of the way, basically just being available to you for any questions, any information. And then in the end, once we've decided on the vehicle, I work with the dealership. If it's we're buying from a dealership, work with them, negotiate the deal, get everything finalized. All you really have to do at that point is show up, sign the paperwork, and drive off.
Sounds pretty slick.
Yeah.
Sounds like something that I will be taking advantage of for sure in the future.
Yeah, it's very streamlined. It's very easy. The people that truly appreciate it are the ones that they just don't have the time, really, or they just don't want to spend the time, and they want to be confident in their purchase decision. They want to know that they've signed up for this huge financial commitment to get into a new vehicle, but they're satisfied. They're happy. They know they got what they wanted, and they didn't pay too much.
Absolutely. That's key. The one I asked about marketing and how we get a hold of you and how I can find your number. Easy to go online, easy to do all of those things. But if you see the car driving around Billings, that's probably your best marketing material. Is the truck that you have that it says clearly Clarity Automotive Group. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you're in Billings, or driving down the highway, wherever you might see it. That's a way that we can see.
It'll be driving around town. It's got the website, clarityautogroup.com, the phone number 406-272-2548. Either way is a great way to get a hold of me. Like I say, I'm really wanting to be at least initially, a local resource. I really want to focus on Billings and the local business community, and really just become established within that, as opposed to just being some guy that you find online that you never meet, you never see, you don't know. I would much rather be, that I want to be a person. I want to have that presence as an individual.
That was what I was going to ask too, because you have all of your stuff is online, and so we can sign up. If I'm in a different city, if I'm in Seattle, or if I'm in Missoula or Bozeman, can you still help me find a car?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can do pretty much everything I need to do can be done remotely. Sure. And that's been a huge advantage through the COVID deal. It's been a huge advantage, and something that I've tried to promote is you don't have to spend hours going to car dealerships, doing test drives, working with a bunch of salespeople, being exposed, to people personally, because so much can be done remotely and so much can be done ahead of time. So that's huge. Yeah, I have helped people out of town. I have some friends that live in Salt Lake, actually, and I helped them through a car deal here not too long ago, and I've helped people in Bozeman and outside of Billings too. So yeah, I can easily help people outside of Billings as well.
I think it's the face-to-face stuff is so important. That's where we're going to transition to next, is to talk about starting a business in the time of COVID. But to have a service that is remote and that you can take care of, that you are as far as I know, the only car advocate in Montana for sure. But Montana's pretty big, so there's quite a few different areas to be involved with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the only one doing this in a very large geographic area.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely unique there.
Yeah, I think you and I have talked about it before, that there's a similar service in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few different places out there that do a similar job, and it's all based on the same premise and the same need. Right, is that buying a car can be such a time-consuming process, and it can be difficult and frustrating and stressful, and ultimately maybe not that satisfying. So there have been businesses built with that same mindset. That you can get a hold of somebody who acts as a broker, acts as a representative, and takes care of it. The businesses I found, they're primarily in larger metropolitan areas. They've got a lot bigger customer base, which is great for them. So for me, working within a smaller, or less populated area, I really need to focus on that personal service, that one-on-one. Again, I look at it as a concierge service, right? You're getting a lot of value from me and my expertise and my knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great transition into the next piece that I wanted to chat with you about, because we started, both of us have been on the entrepreneurship journey for the past year and a half, 2 years. Well, a year ago, almost to the day, our world changed pretty significantly with the shutdown and the economic challenge of COVID and all of that. And you had built this business and started to get your name out, and you were starting to really shake some hands and meet some people at Biz to Biz and at chamber events. And then that all changed. So can you just talk to us about how you started your business in January of last year, mm-hmm. and then had a big curveball thrown at you in March, like most of us did. But with a new business, I think it's that's an additional interesting challenge that you had. So Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is definitely, a message, I guess, if you will, or a case study. I don't know, for anybody listening, anybody who's watching who is an entrepreneur or wants to be an entrepreneur, it was very interesting, to say the least, because I started this business, it's basically Jan 1, 2020. Start of the year, I'd quit my job, I'd gone all in, I was going to make this thing fly. So all of my energy, all of my efforts, I knew it had to be promotion, it had to be marketing, it had to be letting people know first, that who I am, I guess, and that this business even exists, and what the business is, the value that it provides, and then, why you should want this, why you should be like, yes, this is really the only way to go. This is the absolute best way to buy a car. So that was a tall order. I mean, that is a lot to try to explain, especially since it is, a fairly new concept. It wouldn't be like, starting a business like, I don't know, let's say it's a construction company or even a real estate agent or something. I mean, all you have to do is say, hey, I'm a realtor, and people know what you do. For me, it's difficult. So
sure,
it really did require a conversation with somebody to really make them understand, oh, okay, yeah, I get it now. Because at first it was kind of like, oh, this is what I do, I'm this person that helps you buy a car. And I kind of get this sort of quizzical look of, okay, really, is that a real thing, or is this guy serious? But, after I talk with people for a few minutes, then it's like, oh, wow, okay, yeah. They kind of start thinking, they start internalizing. Maybe they think back to the last time they bought a car and they go, oh, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea, because buying a car is, a big hassle. So that was really, really working for me. I was going to every networking event I could, any opportunity to get with other business people, because I wanted to leverage that. I want to meet people who know people.
Sure.
That was really what I was at. So it was all face to face and a lot of conversation. Well, March, whatever it was, 13th, 15th, whatever it was when that shut down. All of a sudden, I couldn't do that anymore. I couldn't do any face-to-face networking. Everything went online. Everything went through Zoom. I was able to take, the relationships that I had built in that first couple months and stay in touch with those same people and continue to work with them and talk with them again remotely. But my ability to reach new people face-to-face, it just stopped. Yeah. So that was by far the biggest challenge of last year.
Sure. That's, a challenge for all business owners, because we all had to pivot and adjust to that. But for a new business, I think you had a few systems that were starting to develop, and then you just had to change everything. So that's really, really challenging altogether.
Definitely.
So outside of COVID, what are COVID is kind of our business life now.
Kind of our world, yeah.
What other challenges have you confronted as an entrepreneur, and particularly for new entrepreneurs that are thinking about transforming their expertise into an income stream? Can you talk about some of those major challenges that you've reached?
Sure, absolutely. And I guess I'm very fortunate in that I was able to put myself in a position financially, realistically, knowing that I'm starting this new business. I'm probably not going to be seeing much of an income for quite a while. Got to make sure I have enough cash in the bank and make sure my expenses are trimmed down, all those kind of things that you want to do. And that really is what saved me, is
right.
that I was already kind of set up in that mindset of, I'd only been operating for a couple months, so I wasn't really expecting, to be making much money. So at least I knew I could weather the storm one way or the other. But that's a huge thing to keep in mind. If you're going to start a business, and especially if you quit your job cold turkey like I did, I'm not sure that's the smartest thing to do. But obviously, just making sure that you are secure enough financially that you're not going to run out of cash, because inevitably things are not going to happen as quickly as you want them to. You start off with this dream, and you start off all very, very motivated and very excited and very, ready to hit the ground running. But then you find out that the world doesn't respond
right.
at the same rate.
Right.
So you've got it, in your mind that things are really going to start rolling. And then you start hitting some brick walls, and you start, things are slower than you think, and it feels like you're hitting brick walls, and it can be very discouraging. So having that financial cushion, if you will, or that ability to support yourself financially is huge. And then also being prepared psychologically for the same reasons. When things just aren't happening nearly as quickly as maybe you had in your mind, you don't get discouraged, you don't quit, you don't give up, you keep going.
I think that's one of the most challenging. There's so many challenges with being an entrepreneur, just learning different systems and learning what works for you. And then you have to reinvent things as things go along. It's constantly moving. It's very dynamic. Mm-hmm. And that's been a relatable challenge for me. And thank you for sharing that, because it is being an entrepreneur is also being vulnerable and understanding that you're going to go through this psychological roller coaster, and it's challenging, and because not everything works the way you want it to.
Yep, exactly.
A year ago when businesses pivoted and you're doing things online and you're promoting yourself online. Now all of the social media channels are saturated and it's just hard to stand out and hard to educate people and talk to people. I think that's a challenge that is relatable across all businesses.
Absolutely. So. I see that as a huge challenge anymore, is because the social media channels, like you say, are so clogged,
right?
Or they're so overutilized. I mean, the beauty of online marketing is you can reach a very wide audience very easily, and it really doesn't cost any money or very little money to do that. But on the other hand, everybody's doing it. Right. Everybody's out there. So there is so much noise. How do you stand out? And especially when you're trying to convey a message that people maybe they need to actually think about a little bit. Yeah. And it's not just a 2-second soundbite or whatever to really get your message across. That's a challenge.
That is why I'm such a fan of this format, because we get to know a little bit about the business owner and about the brand and about how things developed and podcast. I'm just really excited about this platform to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
And is there a podcast in your future, do you think?
I would like to. I really would like to. I know that I have a lot of information to share. And there's a lot of stuff already out there. I mean, you start looking at things related to cars and it's everywhere. I mean, sure. It's a big topic. There's a lot of people interested in cars and putting a lot of stuff out there. So I would have to kind of find my own little niche and see exactly what kind of content I would want to provide and what kind of, discussions, things like that. But no, it's something I would like to do. And I appreciate this, because any opportunity for me to be able to explain who I am, what I do, and get my face out in front of people is huge, because again, otherwise you're just another advertisement, you're just another message that's, impersonal and sure. not connecting with people. So this is great.
Well, it's great. I sure enjoy it. Well, Keith, let's wrap things up. Is there anything that what else would you like to say to the audience and about your business, or about a message that you have from your business? Can you?
Sure, absolutely.
I'll give you the stage for the final piece.
Well, thank you for that. I think if there was one thing that I want to leave people with, is that if you're looking to buy a vehicle, and especially a new vehicle, because of the money involved, I mean, you're looking to spend $20, $30, $40, $60,000 on a vehicle, you absolutely could use my service. You absolutely need someone there to help you through that process, and even just to be a sounding board, if nothing else, to make sure that you're making the right decision, because it's something you don't want to enter into lightly. You don't want to just make it'd be a quick decision. You don't want that to be just something that isn't thought through. So I would say if you're buying a house, you don't think twice about having your own representation or selling a house either way. So it's a similar thing. So my service is there, and it's something I feel people really, really could take advantage of. So that's why I use that tagline, car buying advocate. I like the word advocate, because that is exactly the position that I'm taking. That's who I am, is someone there who's representing you and helping you make sure that you get exactly what you want.
That's great, Keith. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. It's been great to discover another business that has been created by exploring a connection to their expertise. That's what we're all about, creating income streams out of our expertise. It's been great to hear the story behind Clarity Automotive Group. It's also been great to just talk about these challenges, because we're all running into these challenges as entrepreneurs as we move through this whole flood of information and flood of changes. I'd like to give a big thank you to QS Media Group that helped produce this episode, and I really look forward to the next time that we have the opportunity to dig into another business and discover how an expertise can turn into a brand and turn into a business. So I'll see you next time.